it's going to be the same as my other class anyway. Okay. So let's go ahead and trace the algorithm. But before we do that, let's talk about how it will be graded, because I know that will be a very important question. And the way I grade it is also going to be a little bit different from most people think, how it should be graded. Okay? The way this exam is going to be graded is based on how well does that person or does a student illustrate that he or she can apply, what is introduced in this class. Okay? In other words, someone can look at this code here and just eyeball the whole thing and say, I know the final value of y, I know the final value of x. This is what y should have when the algorithm completes. This is what x should have when the algorithm completes. That answer will receive 0 points. Okay? Because that's not what this is not what I'm looking for. Okay? Are you guys okay with that so far? Okay. Because what I want is people to illustrate line by line using the trace mechanism that we have talked about in this class to trace the algorithm. Show me that you understand, what to do in the while. Show me that you understand what happens with each assignment statement. Show me that you understand what to do, when you're at the end of a loop. That is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for evidence that somebody understands those concepts. Is that okay? And I'm applying this to everybody in the class. I'm not saying that, this person here, this non-existent person here, is, I know that he pay attention in the class. So if this person gives me just the final answer, he will get all the points. On the other hand, that person, non-existent person, does not seem to be paying attention in the class. So when that person turns in just the final answer, I would say, no, for you, I will grade it differently. No, I'm going to apply the same standard to the entire class. Okay, if someone disagrees, at the end of the, when you get your points back, you can compare it to your friends, your other people in the class, and you will see that, I try my best to apply the same grading standard to the entire class. Most of the time when I grade something like this, I don't even look at the names. So I don't know, I have no idea who turned in what. And even if I knew the name, I cannot put a face next to a name for the most part. So that's not going to be helpful, in any way of, trying to, make one person suffer and help out the other person, because I cannot, associate names with faces in the class. Which is bad if you are a politician, but it's not so bad when you're grading, because it makes sure it is more fair. All right. So we're going to do the trace here, and this is going to be bad for me because I have to use a non-table type of thing to trace an algorithm, or I can use a table maybe. This is the nice thing about using Moodle. The HTML editor that is completely implemented in JavaScript is actually fairly capable. So you guys don't have to do this. You will be doing it on a piece of paper. So I would try to insert a table. How many columns do you think I need in this case, which is already an exercise of seeing whether we understand the concept of tracing? We need 4 columns. Very good. Which 4 columns do we need? Comments, line number, and then 1 for each variable. We have 2, so we have 4 columns. Very good. So that makes planning a whole lot easier because I can now say that we have exactly 4 columns. And how many rows do we need? Well, that one we don't know for sure, but I would say we need at least 5 rows. We can add rows pretty easily. Adding columns is a little bit harder. And remember, you don't have to do this because the test is going to be on paper for you guys. Okay, so this is what I need to do because I have to, keep track of stuff and upload this later on onto Moodle. Can someone remind me to save this on Moodle before I walk away from the classroom resetting the computer? Because that's what I did yesterday. I just nuked my own. I nuked like 80 minutes of notes and material, which I'm going to reconstruct right now. All right. So the first thing we want to do once we have a table is to comment on the headers. We have comments in one, we have line number in the next one, and then 1 for x and 1 for y because we only have 2 variables in this case. Since I say here, assume nothing about the variables, in the pre, what should I do? 2 question marks. Very good. Okay, that's our usual standard to indicate that we do not know anything about variables x and y. Then we move on to line 1. Okay, line 1 means that we are, if you look at the assignment statement, we are putting a 0 into x. So x is now updated to 0. Okay, any questions about this part? No? Okay. So when you're tracing this, when you turn it in, I'm looking for, exactly the same type of trace. Okay, 1 row per statement executed, and using the same format that I'm using right now. If you want to fill in this to be 0, that's fine. I do not take any points off, stuff that is optional. But you have to always make sure that whenever a variable is updated, the corresponding cell should have a number. Are we okay so far? Okay, basically the same stuff as your homework assignment. Y is also initialized to 0. So now we're running out of rows. I can try to insert more rows like this, like that. See, what I just said about Moodle is nice in a way because it let me do that. Now we're moving on to line 3. What does line 3 do? Yeah, we are comparing y to 5, and this is the beginning of a loop. So line 3 definitely needs to be traced because from line 3 we can go either to line 4 or we can go to post. But it is also, yes?
I had a real quick question about
yeah.
line 2.
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you put a 0 under the x? Or
Because I'm not changing x on line 2. So the shorthand is to say if you see a blank, it means that variable is not affected by that line. It's just a shorthand. If you want to put a 0 there, that's fine as well.
it still wouldn't be wrong, though, on a test.
It will not be wrong, but it will take up more time during the test. So, it is, if you can save yourself some time, it's not a bad idea to do it that way, this way. So y is less than 5 is true. Very good. Now, at this point, you already know that if you're going to do this on a piece of paper, you better not use a blank piece of paper. Because if you use a blank piece of paper, aligning everything, lining it up, is already going to be a challenge. Okay, unless you have really, really neat handwriting and can line up things, horizontally as well as vertically really good, it's going to be, difficult for me to read, which line, which column are we talking about, which row we are talking about. So that's why when you, pick, what kind of paper you want to use, at least use binder paper that is already, that already have horizontal rules, horizontal lines. Now, the vertical lines is not as bad because you can just use a ruler and just go like that. Then you have 4 columns. So the vertical lines is not a problem. The horizontal lines can be potentially a problem. The second thing is, since you won't be typing it and you'll be handwriting it, penmanship is important. I do not like cursive. Okay, you can use cursive if you want to, but you have to make sure that it is legible. Okay, I have to be able to read and know, okay, you mean this is a 0 instead of, is that a 6 or is it a 9 or is that a 0? Okay, because, if I cannot tell, then you cannot, I cannot, give that person the points. Are we okay so far? For the most part, you're not writing an English paper here. Okay, so there's not really a whole lot to write, just mostly numbers. So I'm hoping that, most people will be able to turn in something that is legible, that I don't have to take points off because I cannot see what that person is writing. Are we okay so far? Okay. See, this is something that I cannot assume of my 6-year-old. My 6-year-old would write a 3 backwards, and also, he would write it in a way that it looks like an 8. So when I grade his homework assignment, I always have to say, but Luke, what exactly are you writing? It's a 3? It doesn't look like a 3 to me. It is a 3. But if it doesn't look like a 3 to me, it is not a 3. So, you guys get the picture. Okay, here we go with line 4. Line 4 is computing the right-hand side, which is 0 plus 0. X has a value of 0 because this is the last time I update X, it had a value of 0. This is the last time I updated Y, it also had a value of 0. So this is also important. 0 plus 0 is 0. We all know that. And y already had a value of 0. It is important for you to write down that it is now updated to 0 again. Why is that significant? Because the operation actually took place. The update actually took place. Even though it is maintaining the same value, it is still updating the variable. So it is important to keep track of that because that's exactly what happened when your program executes. On line 5, we are adding 1 to x. So x goes from 0 to 1. And now we want to go back to what? Line 3. Because we are at the end of the loop, we go back to the beginning of the loop. And you have to basically say x is less than 5 is still true. So that means we are going to move on to the next line. So next line is going to be line 4. Do you want me to use another window to display the... Well, let's do that, because otherwise it's hard to keep track of the code. I don't need to save the text editor here. It's only here as kind of like a sticky post-it. So this way I can look at the algorithm and trace it at the same time. You guys won't have this problem because it will all be paper-based. So the questions will be on pieces of paper that I will give you, and you will write down your answer on your own sheets of paper and turn in only your paper. You can keep the questions, okay? You can sell it on eBay, that's fine with me. You can give it to whoever you want to give it to, because I don't recycle questions. So there's definitely not a problem with that. How many classes do you have, where the professor will ask you to give all the questions back to the professor? Almost all. And the reason being they're going to use the same questions again? I mean, these days, that's hardly, useful. I mean, someone can just take a, cell phone and go, that's it. Instantly, post it online, or go onto the web, and people have access to it like within seconds of taking the test. So taking the paper back is like totally pointless, except for the recycling of the material, of course. Well, why send a picture when you can stream the whole thing? In fact, I think YouTube allows live streaming now. So you can go through YouTube and stream the questions of a test. Now that is bad. That is bad. I can get into trouble with this. Okay, so now we're on line 4 again. We're computing the right-hand side again, y plus x. Y still had a value of 0. X now has a value of 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. So y is now updated to 1. On line 5, we add 1 to x. X goes from 1 to 2. Then we go back to line 3. So it's time to put in more lines again, like that. I mean, this is really not a bad HTML editor, allowing you to add new lines and stuff like that, pretty easily. So we go back to line 3. We ask the same questions again. Y is less than 5. It seems like we'll need a whole lot more iterations, but we actually do not. On line 4, what should become y this time? What should be the value of y this time? It should be 3, okay, because 2 plus 1 is 3. Then we go to line 5. We are adding 1 to x. X goes from 2 to 3. And then we move on back to line 3. Very good. And then we have y is less than 5 is still true, but this is the last time it will be true. We go to line 4 again. 3 plus 3 is 6. We go to line 5. It goes from 3 to 4.